Yeah. Test. Yes. So we are at an international film festival. So I have to ask, is there anyone in the audience that doesn't understand or speak Dutch? There are people here. Okay. So I will continue in English. On behalf of Movies That Matter, welcome to the screening of Taxi, otherwise known as Taxi Tehran, from 2015. My name is Alin Wishka. I'm an actor. I was born in Iran. I was 10 when we moved to the Netherlands, well, actually fled to the Netherlands because of political reasons. And actually, in the beginning, my parents told me that we were going to, I could see it as a sort of a vacation. And well, you can imagine this has been the longest vacation ever. I've even learned the language and gotten accustomed to the culture, and now I'm giving an introduction about a Persian film. I'm actually also promoting a film that I'm in. Oh, this is much better, I guess. I'm promoting a film that's called Middag. In the English title is That Afternoon. It's being screened here at the festival 12 times in total. And am I speaking too fast, by the way, for anyone? No, it's okay? And just to summarize, because we're talking about another film here, but Die Middag is about it's a poetic conversation between two people at the opposite sides of a closed door, and they have completely different views on life as a refugee here in the Netherlands, and they're both from Iran. And Iran is the main subject of this 15th edition of Movies That Matter Film Festival here. I'm going to quote in the words of the artistic director Margje de Koning about the choice for Iran. A country where human rights are systematically violated, demonstrations for women's rights are the order of the day, and where opposition is often brutally suppressed. Iranian filmmakers and actors, but all creators in all aspects of this field, face a lot of restrictions, rules, and censorship from the so-called Ministry of Censorship. It's called Ershad in Iran. So they determine what can be shown or what cannot be shown in films. That's usually based on religious and moral laws and rules that they decide. So you can imagine that's very hard for a lot of filmmakers to convey their vision and tell a truthful story with these kind of restrictions. And any criticism or a skeptical view of the country's state, political state, social state, is not tolerated. So that can lead to imprisonment, can lead to torture, can lead to a ban on filmmaking, or even leaving the country. And these people that speak about these censorship, that enforce these censorships, they are the same people that carry these harsh rules on women on the streets of Iran. And one of the most famous incidents is that of Mahsa Amini last year in September, who was brutally arrested and who died because of her injuries that were during the arrest. And that has led to many people call it the first women-led revolution in Iran, currently still going on under the slogan "Woman, Life, Freedom," which you see. Well, this is the shirt I'm wearing for that. With this in mind, I think we can take a closer look at the bravery and the fearlessness of the makers like Jafar Panahi, who has made Taxi, the film of tonight, to take risks, to come up with original ideas, to still convey a truthful story that goes beyond the veil that this regime is enforcing. So I'm gonna just briefly mention a few things about the film, which I find interesting, and not to take too much of your time, because I see some of you like, when is the film starting? Or well, Taxi Tehran, from Grandmaster Director Jafar Panahi, 62 years old. He was born in East Azerbaijan. He's the embodiment of everything that I just told you about this bravery that I told you, about breaking rules and regulations. He has been arrested many times. He has been imprisoned many times. One of the most famous cases was in 2010 when he and his entire family, and I believe 13 to 15 members of his crew were arrested because he made a documentary about 2009 so-called Green Revolution, which was a revolution by the middle class and by the students of Iran, many killed. And he received a ban of 20 years for making films, and also 20 years of he wasn't allowed to leave the country. But a man like him, you cannot stop him. He even says himself, I'm quoting, I am a filmmaker. All I can do is make movies. Cinema is the form in which I express, and it gives meaning to my life. Nothing can stop me from making films. And so he did. Actually, when he was waiting for his verdict to come out about that 20 years censorship, he made a film which is called This Is Not a Film, where you can see how he tries to find out why he is not allowed to work as a director. And he actually smuggled that film on a flash drive in a cake through that's how original you have to be as a filmmaker in Iran. And another film that was very controversial he made was Offside from 2006, a film he made about a group of young women who wanted to go to a soccer or football stadium to watch a match where men were playing, because in Iran it's separated, when women cannot enter the stadium together. And it was based on his own daughter's experience, who wanted to go to see a football match. And she did it anyway, secretly. And that was the first time he actually used small cameras to not get caught by this brutal regime. And in Taxi Tehran as well, he used small cameras that were not noticeable by surrounding. But of course, you can see in the film, people still recognize him because he's a famous movie director. He's playing the taxi driver himself. And at first he wanted to interview real people of the streets of Tehran, but because people are afraid, of course, to say what they want about the situation there. So eventually, like many of his other movies, he used non-actors, so people that are not experienced in acting. And with all of this, two things that can be taken from this is he makes films about discrimination against women, sometimes explicitly by law and often also by social restrictions. And his crew, they don't care about laws and regulations and whatnot. And they still find a way to create and to express themselves and share with the world. Let's see, not to go too much into details, because he has so many ways of creating his films and to share it with the world that is so interesting. But not to take too much time, this film won the Golden Bear at the Berlin Film Festival. His niece, Hana Saidi, which is the little girl you're going to see in the film, received the award because he cannot, exit the country. Also, very important note is the role of the Iranian human rights activist and lawyer Nasrin Sotoudeh, who at one point enters the taxi on her way to a client in prison, and it's a sad irony that she's actually currently in prison, and she has received a sentence of 38 years in prison and 148 lashes. It's even hard to say out loud. And her husband, Reza Khandan, is also a human rights activist who is also currently in prison. Jafar Panahi, he was last year, was the last time that he was put in prison because he supported a fellow filmmaker about certain things against the regime, and he was put in prison. But because Jafar Panahi is very known, and there's a lot of international pressure, but also from organizations that help these kind of people like Amnesty International, he was released earlier this year in February. And to conclude, in his own words, when he was released from prison, I look behind me, and there are still so many students, teachers, workers, lawyers, and activists locked up in here, in prison. So when they said, would you do an introduction, I want just to take this away, like, what kind of when you're watching a film like this, what goes in it? Like, the amount of risk that the filmmaker has to take to still convey a truthful film about the real Iran, the real culture, the real people, beyond the veil. And I have much more to say. There is much more to say, but I'm not going to keep you up any more longer. So you're going to watch the film now. I wish you a pleasant viewing. Thank you.